In this video, we will calculate regular rates of pay, overtime rates, and gross pay. In the first example, Tina earned $17.10 per hour and worked 50 hours per week during the most recent week. So the first thing we're going to do is calculate her regular pay. So we'll take her rate of $17.10 and multiply that times her regular hours worked to get $684 as her regular pay. Then we're going to calculate the overtime rate and pay. Remember that the Fair Labor Standards Act says that all employees are entitled to time and a half for all hours worked over 40 in a week. So she worked 50 hours, she's got 10 hours of overtime. So first we'll figure out her time and a half rate. She makes $17.10. If we multiply that times 1.5, we'll get $25.65 as her overtime rate. Then we'll take that rate and multiply it times her overtime hours to get $256.50 as her overtime pay. So to get her gross pay, we will add the regular pay of $684 to her overtime pay of $256.50 to get $940.05. In the next example, we're going to calculate regular and overtime wage rates based on a salary. Betsy earns a semi-monthly salary of $2,200. During the most recent week, she worked 49 hours. Determine her pay for this recent week. So the first thing we're going to do is convert her semi-monthly pay into an annual amount. So she makes $2,200 for every pay period, and in a semi-monthly pay period, she's paid 24 times a year. And the way you can figure that out is in a semi-monthly pay period, she's paid on the 1st and the 15th of every month. So that's twice a month for 12 months out of the year, so that's 24 pay periods. So her annual pay comes up to be $52,800. We're going to divide that by 52 to get her weekly regular pay. So if she's being paid for the week, she would make $1,015.38. That's her annual pay divided by 52 weeks in a year. We're going to take her weekly pay and divide that by 40 hours. So her hourly regular rate comes up to be $25.38 per hour. So to get the overtime rate, we will multiply that times 1.5 to get an overtime rate of $38.07. So now all we have to do is calculate her overtime pay and then add it back to her regular weekly pay. So it said that she worked 9 hours of overtime. So 9 times the overtime rate of $38.07 equals $342.62 in overtime pay. And we'll add that back to what we calculated as her weekly regular pay, and the total gross pay will come out to $1358.01. Next, we're going to calculate gross pay with commissions. Bruce Wright earns $13.50 per hour and a 20% commission on all sales. During the most recent week, he worked 41 hours and made total sales of $15,200. The first thing we're going to do is calculate his regular pay plus his commissions. So he's paid $13.50 per hour and he worked 41 hours. So we're going to pay him $13.50 for all the hours he worked. And that comes out to $553.50. And now we're going to add in his commission. He had sales of $15.2 and he gets a 20% commission. So his total commission is $3,040. When we add his hourly pay and his commission, he gets a total pay before his overtime is added in of $35.93.50. So now we need to calculate how much overtime he's due, because he did work 41 hours. So we're going to take the pay that we just calculated and divide it by 41 hours. So he was paid $87.65 per hour. He's already been paid for the 1 hour of overtime at the regular rate. So to get his full overtime, we're going to just add the additional half to what he has already been paid. So we're going to take his $87.65 regular rate and add the half. We've already paid him up here for the regular rate of $13.50 an hour for the 1 hour. Now we're adding the half here. So we've got to add an additional $43.83 per hour to his pay. So $43.83 times 1 hour overtime is $43.83. We're going to add that back to the total pay we've already calculated for regular time, and his total pay for this week will be $36.37.33. So there are a couple of things that you need to remember when working with commissions. Is if there is an hourly rate involved, multiply that by the total hours worked. And when you're calculating his overtime, you have to remember you've already paid him at the regular rate for his overtime. All you need to pay him for is the additional half per hour for each hour overtime. Next, we're going to calculate gross pay with bonuses. Neil earns $11 per hour. During the most recent work week, he received a discretionary bonus of $7,200 and worked 43 hours. Now remember, discretionary bonuses are unplanned bonuses that are not dependent upon an employee reaching a specific goal, like a Christmas bonus. And with discretionary bonuses, we do not include that bonus when we calculate the overtime rate. So let's look at this example. The first thing we're going to do is just calculate his regular pay. He worked 40 regular hours and earned $11 an hour, and we get 440. And then we're going to calculate his overtime pay at time and a half, so 11 times 1.5 times 3 hours overtime will give us $49.50 for his overtime pay. Then we're just going to add all these up along with his bonus. So regular pay plus the overtime pay plus his discretionary bonus gives him gross pay of $76.89.50. So notice that when we calculated his overtime, we did not include the discretionary bonus. Now, down in the next example, we have a non-discretionary bonus. Melvin earns $17.60 per hour. During the most recent week, he received a non-discretionary bonus of $440 and worked 56 hours. So first, we'll calculate his hourly pay for all hours worked, just like we did with the commission problem. So he makes $17.60 per hour. He worked 56 hours, so his total hourly pay is $985.60. Then we're going to take the $985.60 and add the bonus before we calculate the overtime. So his total pay before overtime is $1425.60. We're going to divide that by all hours worked, 56 hours, and we're coming up with an hourly rate of $25.46. Now he is due the additional half portion of the overtime because we've already paid him for the additional 16 hours at his regular rate. We're going to calculate the half that we owe him down here. So $25.46, his regular rate, times 1/2 is $12.73, times the 16 hours of overtime will give us $203.68. So his regular pay plus the commission plus his overtime earnings gives him a gross pay of $1629.28. So it does make a difference as to whether the bonus is discretionary or non-discretionary. Non-discretionary bonuses are planned and as a result of reaching a specific goal. So they will be included when you are calculating the overtime rate. Next, we're going to calculate gross pay for tipped employees who have overtime. So tipped employees are entitled to receive overtime for all hours they work over 40 in a week. So Tracy received tips from customers as a standard component of her weekly pay. She's paid $3.90 per hour and receives $4.72 in tips during the most recent 45-hour work week. So we're going to start off by calculating her regular hourly pay. So she's paid at $3.90 an hour times 40 hours will give us $156. Now we have to begin calculating the overtime pay. And the first step in doing that is to figure out what the overtime rate for minimum wage is. So minimum wage is $7.25. If you multiply that times 1.5, the overtime rate for minimum wage is $10.88. Next, we'll find Tracy's tip credit. And to do that, you take the minimum wage and deduct her hourly rate. So $7.25 less $3.90 gives her a $3.35 tip credit. So we're going to take that tip credit and apply it toward her overtime minimum wage rate here that we calculated earlier. So $10.88 less her tip credit will give her an overtime rate of $7.53 an hour. Okay, she worked 5 hours of overtime, so her overtime pay at $7.53 an hour is $37.65. So now we'll add her regular hourly pay plus her tips plus her overtime pay to give Tracy a gross pay of $665.65. Now we'll calculate gross pay for a piecework employee. Quincy assembles merchandise and is paid 8 cents for each unit assembled. During the most recent week, he worked 42 hours and assembled 6,209 pieces. So the first thing we'll do is calculate his piecework pay for at his regular rate. So 6,209 pieces times 8 cents gives him $496.72. Next, we're going to divide the $496.72 by all hours worked to figure out what his regular hourly rate is. So $496.72 divided by 42 will give him $11.83 as his regular hourly rate. Now it's time to calculate his additional overtime pay owed. So we will take his $11.83 and multiply it times a half. So he is considered already to have been paid his regular rate for the 42 hours worked. So now we're only going to give him the half that he is entitled to for the overtime. So $11.83 times a half is $5.92 times the 2 hours worked gives him total overtime pay of $11.84. Then we'll come down and add that to his piecework pay to give him gross pay of $508.56.